Welcome to the Tarot Tapestry, a weaving of self-discovery, where three tarot mavens put their heads and hearts together to offer their wisdom and insights about the tarot. We hope that you find this helpful in your personal journey to self-discovery and growth.
Join us as we explore ways to use tarot for self-reflection and self-correction.
Together, we'll discover new ways to use tarot to weave threads of understanding into the tapestry of your life. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tarot Tapestry. Today, I am joined by Angie and Linda. Linda was able today. Thank you, Linda, for staying up extremely late in Spain to join us tonight. So we appreciate that, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. Today, we're going to kind of make another shift in our episodes, and we're going to go back to talking about the cards. We're pretty much almost finished with the whole entire deck. So we wanted to spend some time just finishing up the last few cards of the deck. So today we will be talking about the sun. I I have been thinking a lot about the sun, particularly like the sun in my life. Um, and I think also with this new astrology course that I'm taking, there's a big focus on the sun, right? Like when you think about reading a birth chart, you're thinking about the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign. So the sun sign is pretty prominent, and I've been kind of thinking a lot about it and working on many of the different significations that the card can have. So right now, I just kind of wanted to run through some words, significations that I think about when I think about the sun. So one of the first major ones is life-giving energy. Like when I look at the sun is what basically provides or gives us life on this planet, right? It's an extremely important part of the process. It brings life to this planet. It brings life to us. And some of the other things were power, illumination, clarity, determination, reliability. And I really liked reliability because it reminded me of how the sun is always there. Like we rely on it in order to survive on this planet. But I know that it's always going to be there. I know that when the sun sets and I wake up in the morning, that sun is going to rise. Um, Another one that comes up too is like fun, right? Just having fun, having good old fun. And then that made me think about youthfulness, right? There's this sense of youthfulness with the sun. And I guess it's because it gives you like energy. And it also talks to your vitality, like this energy to get up and move and do things. And then like joy and happiness. I also thought about freedom. And then another big one, excuse me, that I really like is self-autonomy and individuality because I do, they associate the sun with the ego, and I think that self-autonomy is a really important part for the significations for that card. And then the last thing is regeneration. It reminded me of the seasons, right? It reminded me of how if you go through the whole process of all four seasons, it's one big cycle of like regeneration, and we have been for the past two episodes talking about the fall, right? And talking about some things that we want to release, some things that we may want to grow or think about, say, planting for future growth. And I really like this idea of regeneration. It also made me think about, when it's a cloudy day, and say it's a cloudy day, say it's cloudy for several days. When that sun comes out, like for me personally, I feel like regenerated, or maybe re-energized is maybe a better word for it. But it like makes me feel happy, and I'm like, okay, man, I can go outside and I'm gonna feel that warmth of the sun on my body. When you think about rainy days, like rainy days can be very gloomy. But when that sun comes out, you're like, oh my God, the sun has come out. I can go outside now and I can enjoy my day. And then I think of like regeneration also along the lines of like getting yourself out of a rut. Like when you're stuck in something, and I think about the sun, I think about the sun like motivating you, right? Because that's what happens when it's like a rainy day or so. You're kind of sitting at home, you're not doing anything, the sun comes out and you kind of feel this energy and it motivates you to want to get up and do something. And I kind of attach that to sort of like this idea of getting out of a rut. Um, so those were some of the more positive significations. So I don't know if you guys want to jump in and add any more of your significations to the cards.
I love a good rainy day. I love several rainy days in a row when I can get them. But it's you know, we don't get a lot of really dark, gloomy, like scary storms in the area of the country where I live in. So it's kind of a treat when it cools off and gets a little gloomy out. The sun can be kind of sassy where I am. It's a high desert, so it can be a lot sometimes. Um, and just like in life, sometimes you want a little more shade,
Yeah.
especially this time of year. Light is so pretty this time of year.
Like brisker, like the sky
Yeah,
seems more vivid, more, yeah, just more vivid in its color, and it gives off sort of this freshness from what, at least here in the Northeast, what we might see in the summertime, which is just very hazy and it's like really not
yeah.
nice. And then the fall rolls around and it's like, oh my God, look at that sky. You forget like
I'm
how
in
how
Colorado, and
blue it can get.
yeah, and it's like a color that I've never seen of sunlight. This is the
Mhm.
only place I've ever seen it at this time of year. So, the sun is always there and it's always the same sun, but it depends on the angle that you're looking at it from, right? And what you get from it, and how much heat or just warmth.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking of like the shadowy side to that, right? Is when it does get too hot, our energy level decreases, right? Because, going out there in the heat doesn't, at least for me anyway, it doesn't motivate me to want to go outside and enjoy myself, right? The too much heat can be dangerous, right? So that is like things that you need to think about, and I was thinking about this idea of the sun because it's fire, right? Or in the summertime, in the height of the summer, if you go outside and spend too much time, you can like burn yourself, right? And I was thinking about this idea of burning, of thinking about like the emotions, right? So maybe a shadowy side of the sun is the opposite of being joyful and happy. Maybe it's more angry, right? Or feeling a loss of control, or more of just the negative side. Because I know if I ever burn myself, I'm not happy. I'm pretty like
Yeah,
hurt,
it hurts.
angry, yeah. Um, the other thing I was thinking about too is this idea of the sun, like it dries things out, right? It
Hmm.
becomes very, very dry. And I kind of just associated that with like something in your life that's just like sucking the life out of you.
Yeah.
Something that you're just giving so much to, and you're not really getting anything back. And it's like just sucking the life. It's like drying you. It's like dehydrating you. You're going to become like a prune, if you keep going in that way. Um,
Sun-dried tomato.
yeah, basically. So there you go. And then I was thinking too of like how I guess I was thinking more of like a desert, like when the sun is shining, you see like these cracks, right?
Yeah.
Or this like separation of the ground. And it kind of reminded me of one of the other significations of the sun. It's like a ruler or a leader, and it reminded me of those cracks and the separation reminded me of sort of like how leaders can separate themselves from the masses, and how sometimes that's good, right? That can be beneficial, but sometimes you can go to the extreme and maybe you become a little bit more narcissistic
Mm,
or authoritarian, and I'm better than you. And it's sort of like an inflated ego, when I think
mhm.
about the cracking and the separating. Um, and then the last thing that I associated with the shadow side of it is like death. Too much heat, it can kill something, right?
Yeah.
It can, and you can, you know, in real life, right? Like too much sun can burn the trees, right? They can die. And then, metaphorically, like you get too overheated with things, like you can burn yourself out and then something can just die. Like it's just no longer, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, so that was pretty much the things that I was thinking about for talking about the sun.
Bring up the phrase that Angie and I use a lot is that our favorite brand of sunscreen is a house.
Yes.
And I love a sunrise and I love a sunset. Um, the time in between, you can kind of keep for being outside. Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said about the power, the life generation. Obviously, we need the sun. We couldn't exist without it. We have the dependability that we know the sun is going to come up. We know it's going to come up every day. We know the cycles of nature are going to happen, and it's really something we can depend on and rely on. And you know, a lot of us don't even think about it. It's just that's just how it's been our whole lives. But I think when you stop and pay attention to, what's going on with the sun, what's going on in the world, and how they're connected, I think that's something that you can work with and and create something really powerful around.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, it reminded me of another word like illumination, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when you look at the sun, it like its light reaches like vast distances at one time. You think about just, what part of the world is in darkness while the other part of the world is in the light, and it's like this sense of illumination of bringing light or shedding light onto different areas of your life or different situations that you might be dealing with, and I think that's like a one of the maybe the more prominent significations for the sun in readings, is attached this idea of what can we bring light to, right? Like what is it that's going on here that we may need to see more clearly, and the sun also with its light allows you to see more details of things, right? So like metaphorically, okay, I have this situation is going on, and the sun card might come, up in a reading and say, okay, let's look at some of the more finer details. Let's like dig in there and let's see what we can actually see about what's going on versus maybe the moon card, where yes, the moon can illuminate, right? It can light up, but it's only going to reach so far and it's only going to be so bright, and you'll only be able to get so much detail out of it, whereas the sun is the one that's going to give you more details and maybe even more of that power behind you, um, the motivating factor, right, and the energy that sometimes is necessary to put to learn how to deal with a situation.
The other thing is that most of the sun cards have a child in the picture. And I think part of that is pointing to the light of innocence, where, um, when you're a kid, you're out in the sun, you're just playing, you're not reading, hidden meanings into anything because you don't know what a hidden meaning is. You just take everything for face value the way that the light shines on it. And you're not, trying to find conspiracy theories or anything like that. You're just taking things at face value. And I think that's one of the things that the sun card, when you pull it, can also say, just say, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and you don't have to read a lot of stuff into it. Just let it be. Just let it be in front of you and see what's there.
Yeah, I like that very much. And bringing in the child, or in the Marseille deck, there are two children in the card.
Mm-hmm.
It also reminds me of this like pure joy, like
Yeah.
children experience just, there's this purity to the joy that they experience. They can take in what is around them and like harness that energy and internalize that energy in a way that we as adults, I don't think we can do the same. And I say this because I work with 5-year-olds and I see their joy and happiness, and it's pure. And I know sometimes when the sun card does come up in readings, it can indicate, or it can ask you the question, like, where are you lacking some joy in your life? Where may you need to harness the joy that children, the way that children can do that, and for our listeners a little bit later on, we're going to do a tiny little spread and it's going to be about joy. And I think as adults, um, we tend to maybe not focus on that enough. Like, where am I experiencing like real joy in my life? Because we just get so caught up in all of the day-to-day responsibilities and just all of this crap that we have to deal with on a daily basis, that we can kind of forget um, that there are moments in our life when we can experience joy. And I think seeing that sun every day is like a reminder. I mean, you have to consciously look at it and remind yourself of it, but it can be a conscious reminder of, okay, like, where am I feeling joy?
I think we've done quite a good job of covering things. I mean, it can go from joy and innocence to, like you said, the burning, drying out heat. Too much of a good thing is too much. And hopefully, when you get the sun card, you can use the balance of the light and the power to achieve good things rather than, burn yourself up or burn yourself out.
Yeah, I like that very much. And the other thing that I was thinking about too, and it applies to all of the cards, is, you know, if you notice that there are many significations for many of the cards. I think maybe more so for the major arcanas, just because they're more cards that you would use, or they're very archetypal. So, and they also can last for a long period of time. And there are many significations, and I think that when you're pulling cards, understanding the context, like what is it that you are, the question that you're asking, and thinking about how that sun card and its many significations, like which ones to pull from to kind of help you in a reading. And it can get very confusing, because I know when I first started, in my head, I'm like going through all of the significations, as I'm doing a reading. So, I mean, that's just me. But you can get caught up in that. But I also think it's a really nice idea to sit with the cards, even if it's for like 10 or 15 minutes, and just think about the card, right? Look at the picture if you want. Think about it if you can experience something like in your surroundings that might remind you of it. And just what is the word when you just like oh my God, I think you've used it before, where you just kind of write everything down, but it's like a
Brain dump.
dumping or
Your
brain
brain
dump.
dump.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it helps you. And I make that suggestion because in astrology, when you're learning about the planets and the houses and the signs, that's sort of what you do. You take certain significations and you kind of delve into them deeper and look at them and say, okay, so how do I see this? Like, how do I see this idea of life-giving energy. What does that mean to me? Because then it becomes personal, and then it becomes a way that you can hold on to the meanings of the card, because you're sort of giving it some relevance, if that makes sense.
It
But
definitely
yeah,
does because it'll stick to your brain better if it has a personal meaning for you. And
yes,
just like I'm sure in astrology and tarot, there also there's an element of kind of art to it and
yes,
intuition, and it's storytelling and relating um, these things that you see to yourself or to the person you're doing your reading for. So it's it's just like a muscle. It's just like any other muscle. You just have to work it out and pay
yeah,
attention to it. And it just grows kind of naturally over time.
yeah,
And as you learn to trust yourself and the have more confidence in that, and that's like you were saying, to sit and relate it to something in your life is going to help you in lots of different ways.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I think we're ready to pull some cards. This is really just a two-card spread. First question is, where in my life is joy trying to enter if I make space for it? Right? Where in my life is joy trying to enter? And I will be pulling the cards today, and I am using the Good Fortune Tarot. And I'm just going to give it a quick shuffle here. I always feel so pressured when we're recording
Don't
these
worry,
things
you
that
take
I
as much
I
time as
have
you
to
want. I'll
hurry.
just edit it out.
Okay.
If you feel like you took too long, I'll just cut it down. No one will ever know.
All right. Here we go. Where in my life is joy trying to enter? Let's see. Ooh. Ah, the Seven of Cups. So I
Oh,
will just kind of show that there. Yeah, I sort of wasn't expecting this, but I like the challenge. So when I think about the Seven of Cups, and in this particular deck, there is a person who's standing on a hill. I believe that's the sky. Um, in front of him, and he has these seven cups that are sort of making like a half circle. And each of the cups is filled with some kind of figure. And then we have the moon, who's in the corner up on top, and it's nighttime, um, and it's relatively dark. So when I think about this card and understanding that the Seven of Cups is, part of it is I have many choices of things that I may want to do, and I'm having some difficulty in kind of deciding maybe which one I might want to attend to first. Um, or I have, I'm like a little wishy-washy. I'm not really sure what I want to do, too many choices going on. I'm getting a little confused. Maybe I'm not really liking that I have to make these decisions, so I might like avoid it. And I guess if I was thinking about the sun card and how I would use the sun card to address this, I think I would use this idea of illumination and clarity, right? I was talking earlier about this idea of illumination allowing us to see things more clearly, but with more details, And so here we have a card that is representing like nighttime because we have the moon, right? And maybe the moon is like shining on these choices or these decisions that we have to make. And it's not really clear enough about which one we want to attend to. So now the sun is going to come out and the sun is going to shed some more light. And, maybe thinking more about the details of things. So if I have some choices that I have to make about something that needs to get done, and I'm not sure which one I have to do first, I might want to think more about the details in relation to the situation or the details about the specific choices that I have and maybe come to a conclusion about which one might be more of a priority. Like I can think of details as priority. Like what's a priority and what is it of these choices that I'm going to get the most joy in doing, right? Because the question is, where in my life is joy trying to enter? So maybe it's also this idea of as I'm trying to make these decisions or trying to figure out which one it is I need to work with first, maybe the details is more in relation to, well, how are these things going to bring me joy? What kind of joy and happiness am I going to get if I attend to this or if I make this choice about something? So maybe this idea of joy becomes more of a priority um, for the decision that you make about something. That's what I got.
Yeah, I like that. Also, I think with it being the Seven of Cups, and that can represent a lot of options, as you were saying. Try to bring a little joy to every area of your life that you touch on every day. Maybe it's trying to come in through little ways that you're not seeing, because you're not focusing so much on the good parts of your day or your emotional, you know, soup that you live in. Um, yeah, with it being the sun and the Seven of Cups really speaks to choice of for me, and that has a lot to do with what you put your focus on. You can focus on being on all of the things that you don't have, or you can focus on bringing more joy and ease and excitement and enthusiasm to just the things that are in your life right in front of you right now.
Yeah, I like that. I like the word focus too, right? I was in my mind, I'm thinking about details, but that's like another really great
Mhm.
word is like what to focus on. Yeah, I really like that. Linda?
Yeah, I think that what Angie said is kind of spot on, but I also think that when you have a lot of choices, or even if it's not choices, it's things that you want to get done, or projects, or just directions that you could see yourself going in. I think one of the options with the sun card is obviously to be able to shine light on all of them, but also figure out the one that you think is going to give you the most joy if you pursue it, um, or try to prioritize it by that, by what's going to really make me happy to go after first. And then once you get up that off the list, then you go kind of down the hierarchy of joy giving, and complete them that way versus some other criteria. Obviously, in daily life there are things that we have to get done first, um, paying bills and that kind of thing. But there's other projects. If there's other projects, sometimes, we prioritize them by how much they cost or how much time it's going to take. I don't think we ever really prioritize things by how much joy they're going to give us. And I think sometimes it's nice to pick something that's going to make you happy to do, and do that, first, so that you can get something nice out of it, and then go back to your daily drudgery.
Yeah, I like that. It's sort of like have some joy, right? Experience some joy before you have to go back to the mundane things that you have to do that don't
Exactly.
necessarily give you the joy, but you're feeling good, and at least maybe when you have to go back and do the mundane things, you'll some of that joy that
Yeah,
you just previously
you'll
had
have a
might
little
trickle.
have a little residual joy to keep you in a good mood while you do the stuff that's not so much fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that very much. I like the idea of the priority, and bringing that joy into how you prioritize the choices or the things that you have to do. All right, so now we are going to go to card number two, which is just really an advice, right? It's an advice card, maybe advice on how to make space for it, because I think that is a big. I mean, it's a challenge for me on, kind of figure out how I'm so busy. How am I going to be able to do this? Or, I whatever, just advice on how to make space for it. So let's see. I don't know. I love shuffling cards. I get a lot of joy from just shuffling the cards. It makes me feel good.
It's
All
the little
right.
things that matter, and they
It's
really
the
do add
little
up.
things. It does, absolutely. All right, advice on how to make space for it. Right. Ooh, another seven.
Mm,
We're gonna have to sit with that, but we have the Seven of Wands as an advice card. Ooh, let me think about this one. So in this picture, there is a figure who's standing on a rock, and in front of him, he has six wands that are pointing at him, but you see no other figures in the card. And he's holding above his head one big long wand that has this flame, a fairly large flame in front of him, with some trees on either side of him, and just this big field um, behind him. And I believe there is a deer that's right in front of him, which honestly, I don't think I've ever really noticed that before. Um,
mm.
so if I'm thinking about the Seven of Wands as an advice card, is like you need to stand up for yourself, like, and I know that sounds kind of silly when you're talking about you, but sometimes you need to be an advocate for yourself. Sometimes you need to fight another part of yourself, right, in order to get something done, and by that I mean, if I might be thinking, well, I don't have time to, do these things that are bringing me joy. I have, a very busy life. I'm working. I have a family. I have this too many responsibilities. I don't have time. I can't make space for it. So sometimes you need that other side of you, to say, whoa, no, yes, you do. Like, I'm going to be firm about this. You need to make space for some joy in your life because you need it. It's something that's needed. So you're the one that's sort of like fighting against yourself, or defending joy, right? You're defending bringing joy into your life, and sometimes that battle is within. That's
I
what I have.
agree. And I think with both of these being sevens, okay, the seven of cups, and there's something in each of the cups. But in the RWS, some of those choices are really bad. So, and the cups being feelings, like these are things that maybe you don't feel great about all of them, but they're attached to keeping things moving in the right direction in your life and keeping everyone kind of on solid footing if you're somebody with a family and you have a lot of responsibilities and things. And that seven of wands saying, how do I make space for it? Wands are passion and fire, and which is, I think, appropriate with the sun, and we each have our own little supply of sunlight, right? We only get so much energy a day. I think in order to make room for joy, you're just going to have to say as many times as it takes to people who are trying to horn in on what you're trying to do to keep yourself motivated and fueled up to face what you need to do every day. You're going to have to say, I know you want me to do it that way, but I don't care. I'm going to do it my way. This is important to me. Getting it all done, you're just going to do it your way, not the way all the other people with the six wands who are waving it at you saying, no, no, go over there, do it that way, do this now, do that now. So yes, boundaries are important to let joy in. You
Yeah.
got to make space for it. You have to protect that space for it.
Yeah, I like that. And the card that the card for the good tarot reminds me of that. It's like you're protecting that space, because that's basically what he looks like in the card like that.
Well, I pulled out the Seven of Wands from the Cosmic Tarot. This guy is standing and he's very flamboyant. I mean, he looks like a drum major or somebody on a stage, and he's got this stance where one foot's behind him, one foot's in front of him, almost like a fencer stance. And he's got this wand up in his right hand, kind of up above his head, across his body. and the 6 wands are, poking at him. The 6 wands in this case, and I just noticed that they look a little bit like matches because they're long, but they have kind of the rounded end that's a white color. So they look to me like a little bit like matches. And the way he's standing, it's almost like he's gonna bring the wand down across and strike these matches. I see this as kind of like, yes, I'm going to get joy in my life, and I'm going to do it in such a way that I'm going to inspire you to do it too. They're going to have the same enthusiasm as he does.
Oh, I love
Ooh,
that. Winning everyone over to
yeah.
your side so that
Yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do this and let's have fun
let's
while we
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that inspiration. I like that very much. I just need to make a correction because I just looked at the card, the Seven of Wands, that I pulled up. And as I zoomed in, it is a rabbit, not a deer, but it's a rabbit
Oh.
with the horns. And
It's not real. It's a Western thing
oh,
from the
okay.
like the cow skull. So it's a combination of a jackrabbit and an antelope. They call it a jackalope.
They
Oh, okay.
taxidermy a rabbit and they put antlers on it. My grandpa had one hanging in the bar in his basement.
Okay. All right. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that this character also has its hand out, like it's saying stop. And it just gave me the idea of protection, but protecting your joy, right?
Mm,
Protecting what is rightfully yours. And this idea, like both of you have been saying too, is, don't let anybody steal your joy, right? The joy is
mhm,
yours and you need to go for it. And it's true because if you think too about the sun, and the sun radiates. So, like what Linda was saying, was that if you inspire others through your own actions, right, that radiates out into the world. And like laughter and joy and fun, like that's contagious. Like
mhm,
when you're around other people who are in a state of joy and they're happy and they're content and they're just enjoying things in life, like that's very comfortable to be around. Like it's a really nice feeling, and that also in itself, like Linda said, can inspire you to want to bring some of that. So stand up for your joy and
heck
fight for
yeah.
where you can bring that into your space, because if others can do it,
Absolutely.
you can do it as well. And I love that we do this for our listeners and viewers. It just shows you that you can read cards differently. We all basically had, I think, the same core message, but how we express it and the using the various significations can kind of lead to the same grander message, but you're just sort of getting there in a different way. And there's never just one way to do something. There can always be different, avenues, or different paths to get to the same place.
To do this with other people because then you get your definitions can broaden and it just really enriches your understanding of the cards, I
Oh
think.
my goodness, absolutely.
So
Um,
I'm gonna throw a thing before we take off. Because I was sitting here looking at the card thinking it's 19. It's number 19 in the deck. And here I go with my numbers. So 19, 1 and 9 reduces down to 10. And then 10, 1 and 0 reduces down to 1. So 1 is the magician, 10 is the wheel of fortune. And I think I pull them out and I'm looking at them all three, but when you look at the progression from the magician to the wheel of fortune to the sun, it's really cool because the magician is someone who manifests things, but then the wheel of fortune, it has the same cycles. It's like, well, you know,
The
the only
movement, you
thing,
got to have a
the
movement
movement,
to make
the
something
only
happen.
thing, the only thing stable or consistent in the world is change. We know things are going to change, and then you get to the sun where the day changes to night, but it's a very reliable change. And so if you just take those three cards and kind of sit with them for a while, I think that's also a really good exercise how to,
Mm.
how to work with the cards too.
Yeah, I love that idea very much. Um, yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you, Linda, for staying up super, super late to join us this evening.
I took a nap.
Oh, there you go. You prepared. Beautiful.
That's right.
All right, so I guess we will see everybody next week. See you later.
Bye,